I don't think I'm alone in questioning or having confidence in this, availability plan that you make, because we have seen areas of greenbelt across the, of brownfield sites across the borough that have been released, and I think there was something at Cabinet last week, and it may or may not be appropriate to bring up right now, that could have been released for a residential development, but yet the council has chosen to pursue other alternatives. So I can't be alone in thinking that actually our commitment to building on brownfield sites first and not upsetting the greenbelt is actually just paying lip service to it, when there are sites available and we actually don't have the bold vision to do it. That there was, and I'll make the second point, that there was £97 million, I believe, that was given to Greater Manchester for brownfield regeneration, which I think was distributed through the GMCA. I'm willing to be proven wrong. And Bury was awarded the princely sum of 1.3 million, when I think our neighbouring boroughs received, tens of millions. What did we fundamentally do wrong that GMCA said, well, Bury doesn't need that much, when clearly we have brownfield land that we could use for housing, but the Cabinet and Council seem to be choosing not to?
So, first point on the decision around the allocation of the former fire station site. I think it's telling that no opposition member has even mentioned the need for jobs and the need for the economic growth over the next 20 years in Bury. I think it's a massive blind spot in many of your arguments and positions on this, that you completely ignore things like the Northern Gateway, which is ultimately a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generation or two opportunity to rebalance that economy, not just actually in Greater Manchester, but regionally and even nationally, potentially allowing for the creation of 20,000 new high school jobs for residents in Bury, Rochdale, Oldham and others. It's telling that you've not referenced that, you've not welcomed it, you've not given any support to it, and you've not acknowledged the need for it. And again, I think that highlights why you've got a bit of a blind spot on the fire station site, because we have a town centre economy that requires not just new housing, but also new economic activity. Retail cannot simply be relied upon to survive, to keep the survival of our town centres going. We have to encourage a more vibrant mix of activity, a lot of which will be driven by food and drink, by our cultural sector, by the tourist and visitor economy, which is absolutely massive in Bury, far more than we actually give it credit for. And the hotel is a key part of that. I was actually quite discouraged by the amount of people that think Bury is a terrible place that nobody will visit. It's not. It's a fantastic place. It's not only the town of culture, it's got one of the most thriving visitor economies in Greater Manchester. It's got the third best town centre visitor numbers in Greater Manchester as well. We want to keep that encouragement going, and that will mean not every site is always allocated for housing. It's brownfield first, but it doesn't mean every piece of brownfield site in the borough is appropriate for housing. There will be, however, other parts of the town centre in Bury and in other town centres as well that are appropriate for housing, and are already accounted for in the figures. The second part of your question was, what are we doing wrong? Well, it's not anything we're doing wrong. It's the fact that we have a far smaller proportion of brownfield than many of our neighbours. When we have brownfield sites, they're often smaller, so therefore they attract less subsidy. In parts of Manchester, you're talking about huge parts of the city that will be attracting this brownfield funding, so naturally they will get more. In Bury, our biggest site is only 400, and that's quite significant, but in Manchester there's some that are thousands, in Trafford there are some that are thousands. Naturally they attract more money. So we're not doing anything wrong. It's a position of circumstance that Bury's in. We've been very competitive in getting now 5 sites through, and we're working on our biggest one with Homes England to attract even more funding. So it's not always who's got the most amount of money works hardest or is the best. It's appropriate for our borough and our size and the supply of brownfield we've got. So I don't think it's something that's negative in any way whatsoever.